the number one thing that I see that jiu-jitsu athletes don't have in terms of a wrestling skill is the ability to hold someone down. If he wants to get out and I'm not controlling him using folk style wrestling, there's really nothing I can do to keep him on the ground. He can just stand up if I have this rear body lock. And I'm going to have to mat return him. And if I don't start addressing these posts, then I'm not going to keep him down. We're just going to keep playing this game, and it's exhausting. Not everybody's going to play the game of jiu-jitsu with you. Some people, especially the wrestlers, American wrestlers who have come in, if you get a takedown on them, they're going to try to get out of there. They don't want to be down there, because if he just takes me down, right? Like, let's say he gets behind me. If I'm rolling with Jordan Presinger, and if I turn into him here to try to be playing jiu-jitsu, this guy is going to smash me. Okay, I have firsthand experience of that. So I would rather get out of here, right? So I would rather stand up and get away, or use other folk style techniques, things that you won't learn in freestyle, where the emphasis is on the takedown, survive, back up to your feet. This person wants to get out, and I can't hold him down if I don't start removing these posts. He's too powerful. He can just go to a quad pod position, right? So, and this is a really common thing for people to have a body lock or a seatbelt without legs in. Those are not rides. A ride, by definition, is I can get wrist control. And once I get wrist control, it's very difficult for him to stand up, because now I have control over his shoulder and I have downward pressure. So stand up now, it's much more difficult. Even if he gets to here, me sagging my weight on him is much different than sagging my weight on his hips, because he can stand up. I can't have no control. If he tries to go, he can't have a quad pod now, right? I have control. So there's several ways that we can get to this position. One is just a tight waist chop, and I can collect his wrist, go to a 2-on-1, and now I can start working a system. Another way, really common one I used to use all the time, and I actually prefer it, I have inside control with an underhook, and I have inside control with this thigh pry. And contrary to what a lot of people say, this is not going to disrupt his base that much. If he doesn't want to go anywhere, I can try. This isn't going to disrupt his base. So what I do is I get on my toes and drive him flat. Collect the wrist, right? I'm running him in a circle. So I run him in a circle. And if he's super tough and that still doesn't work, then I pull. Now I collect the wrist. Now that I've got the wrist, I still have to get his butt down. This person wants to free his hands, and this is not the best control yet, but it will be, because he's still got a strong base. I have to disrupt his base. So I'm taking away a post, and now to disrupt his base, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what I call the forearm shiver to get his butt down. Once I get his butt down flat here, now it's really difficult for him to stand up. Okay, and I can even be way over here and I put my shoulder in his back and try to get to your base now. Very difficult, okay? I'm gonna reach underneath and I'm gonna grab his fingers here. I'm gonna use my legs again, drive, pull his arm behind his back. Now that his arm's behind his back, you see how I use my knee here to stop it? Now it's pretty easy to submit him. He still can't come up. Even just me having my hand here, he can't come up. Okay, so you don't even need to cover him. You can just pull it this direction, tap, or this direction. So in folk style wrestling, they make you keep it 90 degrees for a reason. You can see why. Because once it goes north of 90 degrees, then all of a sudden the tap happens, right? It's really, really easy. It's very uncomfortable. It's not a nice place to be. So you can come this way, away from him, or this way, okay? Extremely powerful position. Very easy to get to. So I know he wants to get out. If I have no inside position, he pulls his elbows in, he's going to stand up. I have no control. He can turn and face me. And now we're back on our feet. You're seeing this a lot more now because people do not want to accept this position. And if I have to break his tight turtle, I want to disrupt his base. A lot of times the elbows flare out, right? Because I'm putting weight on now the weight's on his hands. I can collect a wrist, run that same system. as a bottom man, I know that these things are happening. So if he gets this wrist here, I have to learn that he wants to drive me forward and disrupt my base. So I have to hold a strong base, try to keep my back straight. Now I can start addressing the hands. Now that the hands are out, now I can get to my feet. I can turn and face him. Another thing, let's say he's got the 2-on-1 again, right? I break the grip. I get this out. I go here, right? I can go straight to Granby situations. He's going to want to feed this hand back in, which is fine. I don't mind. Even that I don't mind so much. I want his hand if I can, but this isn't a big deal. I can still head shrug, hold this, and now look, right back to where we were. Submit. Doesn't matter if he has my hand or if I have his. And then lastly, the other thing I can do, right? If he has locked hands, and I'm not going to be able to get his hands apart, right? I don't want to stand up because he'll mat return me. So what I usually do is push back into people in Granby. Got his wrist, take his foot down, right? And then I can submit. I would cover him right here, right? But I want to show you what it looks like here. That's it, right? So we can use what we know from American folk style wrestling and apply it to jiu-jitsu to keep people on the ground. Because if you can't keep them on the ground, you can't do jiu-jitsu. We just filmed an instructional, which is second part of wrestling for BJJ.com. And this is centered around using folk style wrestling principles of holding people on the ground and controlling them to submission. So we've adapted some of the moves that are classic to folk style, and then also being able to get out, right? So you need actual technique to stand up and get out, because if their hands are still locked, you're just going to get buried, right? So we've spent a lot of time putting this system together that's tailored specifically to help you with your jiu-jitsu. So on this instructional, the focus is using folk style principles from American wrestling to keep people on the mat so that you can do jiu-jitsu, right, from the top position. And then on the bottom position, learn how to escape that position so you can get back to your feet and wrestle from there, and or reversals, right, where you can get behind them and then control them on the ground so that your jiu-jitsu, it can be more from the top position, right, where we control people, keep them flat on their face.